Welcome to this free immigration help channel. In this video we will talk some business. Specifically, this video is addressed to the investors who want to claim immigrant status based on their investor eligibility. And yes, the form that we will be talking about today is the form I-526 Immigrant Petition by Standalone Investor. Standalone meaning that you are not in the company or the pool of investors. You are by yourself. Alright, so we will start by learning some navigation. All of the information that I provide in my videos, all of the videos, including this one, is directly from USCIS.gov, which is US Citizenship and Immigration Services website. So we're going to open the very homepage, just so that you know how to navigate from the homepage to the form. So this is the homepage of the website. We're going to click on the forms. This will give us a few options, but we're going to click on all forms. And yes, this page will give us all the forms that we need, but we will find the I-526. Alternatively, of course, you can search simply the keyword here, like for example, investor. And yep, there we go. We have all the investor forms coming right up. So we're going to click on I-526 Immigrant Petition by Standalone Investor. Now in this video, I will show you how to fill out the application, the general process, the filing fees, where to file your completed application, and of course, step-by-step instructions on actually filling out the application and just going through the whole process. So hopefully by the end of this video, you will know exactly what to do whenever it comes to filing the form. So we got the form page right in front of us. There are a few alerts. Basically, these are updates from USCIS. I do recommend reading through them. For example, this very first one, beginning September 1st, which is kind of recent, 2022. We will no longer accept a single combined fee payment when an applicant or petitioner files form I-526. So it's kind of important. See, so there was an update quite recently, a few months ago. So make sure to go through them. I'm making this video, it's January 28th, 2023. You know, if you're watching this video 6 months, a year maybe down the road, double check the edition date right here. Currently it is, as you can see, June 1st, 2022, but USCIS, they consistently update their forms. We will also talk about where to file, filing fee, filing tips if you want to go through them, might be helpful, and then there are some special instructions. Go through them yourself as well. But we will concentrate on 2 PDF files, and we have them right here, forms and documents. Now the first one I'm going to open is the instructions for form I-526. If you are not filling out this form, this application right now as we go with this video, I definitely recommend going through the instructions and having them open in front of you when you do. Maybe briefly read through just to kind of understand what are the expectations of USCIS from you, what information you need to provide, and what documents you need to prepare in order to file everything, the whole package, the whole application package to the USCIS. So these are the instructions. So without further ado, let's get into the application. We're going to start filling out the application, and in our example today is going to be our usual suspect. It's John Doe from Brazil, and this time he's actually applying for an immigrant status based on the fact that he is investor. Now, hopefully, you know what? I'm going to go briefly over it, but I'm thinking that if you're watching this video, you already know that you have, you meet the eligibility, right, criteria. But if you do not, let's go briefly over it. Who may file form I-526? Right here in the instructions. So you may file this petition for yourself if you have invested or are actively in the process of investing the required investment amount in a new commercial enterprise, or also commonly known as NCE, that will benefit the U.S. economy by creating full-time employment in the United States for at least 10 U.S. citizens, U.S. nationals, lawful permanent residents, or other immigrants lawfully authorized to be employed in the United States, other than yourself, your spouse, your sons, or daughters. Okay, so it's not for yourself, the employment, it's not for your spouse, it's not for your kids. It has to be somebody else other than your immediate relatives, right? So there are a few different kind of eligibility criteria. An NCE may be established by the formation of a business after November, so anytime after 1990. NCE, that's the new commercial enterprise. The purchase of a business and the expansion of a business formed on or before November 29th, 1990. So 3 different types. You either created a brand new company from scratch, or you purchased that business, or you expanded a business, okay? And of course, as part of that expansion, as part of that purchase, there has to be a certain investment amount, which is always updated. Currently, it is $800,000 or $1 million. Yes, it's quite a lot. It went up recently. And you also have to be providing certain employment opportunities for other people. So you have to have 10 employees. Okay, so if you're watching this video, it means that you already know that, yes, I'm meeting these eligibility criteria. I'm good to go. Let's start with the application. So we got our John Doe who did, let's say, create a business from scratch. He did invest the certain amount and he has 10 employees. Everything is good. Everything is working. Now he is ready to apply to petition for that immigrant status based on his investor standalone investor eligibility. So let's start with the application. It starts right here on the part 1. You don't fill out anything in the beginning. That's specifically for U.S. immigration officers, so we're gonna leave that. Alien registration number. If you do have any kind of immigration process, or you already had some kind of immigration process, depending on which status you are in, you might have the alien registration number. If you do not, just put none. We don't leave anything blank in the application. It is very important. Every paper application that we're filling out, I say paper because it doesn't apply for online applications. Every paper application that we fill out, no blank spaces, except this top part right here for the immigration officer. Okay, USCIS online account number. If you have that, if you have created an online account with USCIS, you might have that online account number. If not, that's fine. Let's put none. In our case, we'll do none. John Doe does not have one. US Social Security number. Most likely, our John Doe has the Social Security number because he created the enterprise. He has everything going, right? But if not, you put none. If you do have, you put it here. So in this example, we'll put none. So full name, family name, last name, surname, however you like. We're going to put Doe. Given name is going to be John. Middle name now. He does not have a middle name, so we're going to put not applicable. If you have a middle name, put it in. If you don't have, put not applicable. No blank spaces. Moving further, if you ever used any other names, you can put them here. If not, yes, you guessed it right. Every space here is going to be not applicable. Oops, not applicable. Not applicable. You get the point. So no blank spaces. Moving further, date of birth, gender, male. Place of birth, the city or town of birth, state or province of birth. If you have that, you put it in. If you don't, not applicable. Country of birth, like I said, our John Doe is from Brazil, so we'll put that here. Still continuing, part 1, information about our John Doe, information about you, the petitioner. Countries of citizenship or nationality. In our case, it's still going to be Brazil. Country of last foreign residence. Okay, so that's where the petitioner previously lived. So if you lived in another country, if you resided in another country other than the country of your citizenship, you put it there. If you don't, you can put either not applicable, or you can put the same country as your country of birth, if that's where you lived last. Now, mailing address obviously is going to be the address where you receive your mail. Very, very important to put the correct address here so that you do not miss any correspondence from USCIS. So that's I'm not going to go through that. Now, physical address. The difference between physical address and the mailing address, I get that question a lot in the comments. Basically, mailing address is where you get the mail. Physical address is where you actually live. Most of the times, it is the same exact address, but there are some cases where it's 2 different addresses. So if it is the case, put it in. If not, just fill in the same exact thing as the mailing address. Now, moving further, we got our provide your physical address for the last 5 years. So here we're not just providing the current physical address, we're also providing the addresses that we lived in for the past 5 years. So you're putting in the address, you're putting in how long you lived there from. Obviously right now it's going to be present, the current one, the second, and then the third one. If you lived in more than 3 different addresses in the past 5 years, they say that you can use Part 10 additional information. When we scroll all the way down, I will show you that window. Okay, moving further, we got the employment history. All right, so provide your employment history, list present employment first. If you need extra space to complete this section, use the space provided in Part 10. Same thing. So 16, have you ever been employed? Either yes or no. If yes, then you're filling out the employer information. And moving further, as you can see, still some employer name, from, to. So that has to be provide your employment history, list present employer first. It does not say how many years, but if you list the past 3 employers, that should be good enough for them, because they do not specify for how many years you need that employment history specifically for. Okay, moving further, your entry into the United States obviously speaks for itself. Is how you entered in the United States, the date of arrival, whatever it is, place of arrival or port of entry. So for example, John Doe in our example flew from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, directly to New York. So we're gonna put New York State, New York State, New York City, for example, right? Or whatever. I-94 is the arrival departure record number. That's the number that you get in the passport. Before, it used to be a separate white card that has that I-94 number. Now it's all electronic, so most likely you will have to pull that I-94 electronically on the special website. I've made a video, I'm not gonna go into much detail on this. I made a separate video on how to pull that I-94 record, so check it out, it's here on this channel. Okay, moving further, we have date period of authorized state, expired. Okay, that is in month, date, and year. So for example, most of the times I-94, well, depending on the status, on how you enter, what kind of visa, whether it's immigrant visa, non-immigrant visa, there's always a duration of stay, authorized stay, that is mentioned on that I-94 record. So most of the times it is 6 months. If it is 6 months, just put here up until what time you can stay in the United States, basically. If it's not 6 months, if it's a year, it doesn't matter. Whatever applies to you. But again, that's the information that you most likely will have to pull up. Hopefully you have it in front of you. If you don't, I've made a video on how to pull that record up. Passport number, travel document number, if you have any. If not applicable or none. Country that issued passport or travel document. Date passport or travel document expires. Current non-immigrant status, if applicable. If not applicable, NA. But let's say in our example, John Doe, he entered the country as a visitor for business. That would be B1 category, so we're going to put here B1. So that's it. That's really it. That's all you're entering here. And then the date current non-immigrant status expired. That's the visa that would be in the passport. So again, whatever it is, you put it in this window right here. Okay, moving further, still part 2, information about your spouse and children. No, actually it's not still part 2, that's it. We're done with part 1 now. We're getting into whole brand new part 2, information about your spouse and your children. So we're gonna put family member 1, family member 2, family member 3, family member 4. As you can see, they give you options for 6 different family members. All they want is spouse and children. So the first family member would be spouse. For example, Doe, Jane Doe, right? It's going to be the spouse of John Doe. Her birthday, country of birth, so let's say it's Brazil as well. If a spouse, country of citizenship, current and relinquished, so spouse's current country of citizenship. So let's do it Brazil as well. Relationship to you. You can either put spouse or you can put wife, whichever it's still understandable. Applying for adjustment of status, of course, yes, most likely. So if you are married, based on this, because you are getting the immigration status, now you are adding dependents to your application, which is, it's great. One of the benefits of this petition, really. Applying for visa abroad, if yes, yes. If no, then no. Now, when would this be applicable? Applying for visa abroad, in case if the wife is currently not in the United States and she's, for example, in our example, she's in Brazil still, and she wants to come here to support her husband in his business endeavors, right? Then we're gonna put yes, because she is applying also for the visa. All right, so she will have to go to the embassy, United States Embassy in Brazil, whatever it is, and go through the interview and get the visa. Now, the family member, that would be children if there are. If no, then just put not applicable in all of these windows so that nothing can be entered later. Okay, so same thing goes for the children. Are they applying for adjustment of status? Are they applying for visa abroad? If they are over there, then they're gonna need the visa abroad, obviously. If they're not, then no. But adjustment of status, obviously, most likely is going to be yes, unless they are already permanent residents here or something like that. Okay, so we're done with the part 2. Let's move on to the part 3. This is where things are starting to where we start talking about your business. Okay, so information about the new commercial enterprise, NCE. So let's start with what's the very first one? Information about the NCE. So legal name of NCE. So whatever the name of the corporation, whether it's a limited liability company, whether it's whatever kind of structure, C Corp, S Corp, you're putting it here, the full name of that corporation. If there are any other names the NCE is authorized to use or do business as, that's the DBAs. So for example, if you have registered an LLC, say, what are we doing? Can't come up with any names. Water Bottle LLC, right? That's what we do. Water Bottle LLC. Caps lock. So LLC, and then let's say, to make it a little bit more simple and so that you don't have to put the LLC or whatever, the presence, you called it Zephyr Hills. Probably be sued for copyright, but that is the DBA, so you are allowed to do business as. So you have the Zephyr Hills registered as DBA, and then you have behind the DBA, the owner of the DBA, Water Bottle LLC. So that's what you're going to be putting here. Now, moving further, select the organization structure. That's the structure that we were just talking about. Is it corporation? Is it partnership? Is it limited liability? Or if it's none of these things, then you can type it up yourself. But in our case, it is limited liability company because we just said it's LLC. So moving further, we got still part 3, information about the new commercial enterprise. Is the NCE comprised of a holding company and its wholly owned subsidiaries? Again, yes or no, whatever. In our case, we will just say no. If we answered yes, then you'll have to put the subsidiary name, date of formation, and jurisdiction of formation. Date and NCE was formed, okay, whenever it was formed, state or territory where the NCE was established. List any other state or territory where the NCE is registered to do business. So for example, if you do business in more than one state, then you can definitely list it here. Federal Employee Identification Number, that's your basically tax number. You will be putting here, kind of like a social security number for an individual, only it is a number for the corporation, for the business. So you definitely should have that. So you will be putting it here. Moving further, NCE's mailing address, all right, straightforward, nothing crazy. Right, you can put it mailing, same as physical address. Contact information, telephone number, email, website, most likely you have all of that. Address and census tract where the NCE is principally doing business. Now this is very, very important, and yes, it even says here see instructions. I would definitely recommend you going through the instructions. Why? Because as part of the eligibility, you have to do this business, you have to do this investment, right, in certain territories, in certain locations that are economically challenged in a way. That's why you're benefiting United States of America, because you're willing to invest into the territories, into places that really at the end of the day nobody else sees any opportunity in them and nobody wants to invest. You are doing them and you are benefiting the United States economy. So it's very important to provide exactly where that location is. So you're putting the address and census tract where the NCE is principally doing business. So that's the address where the NCE is doing business. Nature of a census tract, you will have to do the research and find that. Nature of the activity, manufacturer, they give you an example, furniture manufacturer. In our case, it's water bottle manufacturer. Right, for example, included industries, provide North American industries classification. Now that's a NAICS, and you can simply find it. Just Google. You can just say find NAICS code, and that's it. It will come up. Basically, it's like a 5 or 6 digit code. Just put it here. It's very straightforward. Moving further, still information about our NCE. Let's talk about the type of NCE now. They're requesting that. Is this the NCE formed? Is the NCE purchased? Or is the NCE from capital investment in a substantial expansion of business? So again, 3 different types that we mentioned in the beginning. It's formed, it's purchased, the whole business purchased, or if it's just an expansion. Okay, have you invested or are you actively in the process of investing in a troubled business? Again, yes or no. What percentage of the NCE do you own? Now, most likely this will be 100%. But in some situations, if you're buying a business, let's say from somebody, and you're filing it by yourself, and they're not claiming any kind of immigration status, let's say might be 50-50, right? So you might put 50, but in our case, we'll just do 100. But again, that's how much percentage of the business you own, basically. Pretty straightforward. Now, moving further, total amount of all capital invested NCE by non-EB5 investors. And let's talk a little bit about the additional non-EB5 investors. If you are not the sole owner investor in the NCE, which is not the case, we are the sole owner, 100% in our example. But if you are not, list the name of any other person that holds an ownership interest or has invested capital in the NCE. And those people that hold that ownership of that NCE together with you, they are classified basically as non-EB5 investors. It's not those who are requesting that immigrant status based on their investment. So it's going to be, let's say if you own, for example, 50%, our John Doe, right, in our example, owns 50%, and there is also Michael Jordan that owns also 50%, right? And also the amount of capital. And then, of course, there's a total amount of full capital invested into CE by non-EB5 investors. Okay, so that's the non-EB5 investors. That's if there are multiple ones. Clear. Okay, let's move on further. Part 4 now. Information about your investment. Okay, so let's talk about the investment now. Select the appropriate box to indicate the type of investment you are making. All right, is that a rural area? Number 1, we have an option for rural area. This petition is based on an investment in a rural area. Okay, is the NCE principally doing business in an area outside a metropolitan statistical area as designated by the Director of Office of Management and Budget? Okay, so that's if your company is located outside of really a big city or anything like that and somewhere out in the rural. If that's what you're claiming, then you're probably going to be answering yes. Is the NCE principally doing business in an area outside the outer boundary of a city or town having a population of 20,000 or more? Again, yes or no. You'll have to do the research on the location where you're doing. But if you're filling out this application, most likely you already know that information. So I'm not going to dwell on it too much. Or is it in a high unemployment area? Again, it might be a big city, but it's a very challenged economically big city. So high unemployment area. If that's the case, well, whichever one works for you, right? And this petition is based on investment in a high unemployment area. In addition to the census tract, where the NCE is principally doing business identified in Part 3, item number 10, list any other directly adjacent census tracts that are requesting to be included and designated as an area of high unemployment. So besides the existing census tract, you can also include additional ones here in case if that's applicable to you. Okay, so now then we have the B for option 2. What is the weighted average of the unemployment rate for the census tract? Okay, that's the average. There's also what was the national average unemployment rate at the time of your investment. So that's now the national average. All right. I wonder what it is now. D, what data source and time frames did you use to calculate the unemployment rate? Now, so basically you're describing specifically the details if you are on the unemployment. If it's high employment area, this petition is based on an investment in a high employment area. That's number 3. And then number 4 is non-TEA, non-high employment. This petition is based on investment in an area that is not in a targeted employment area or high unemployment area. Okay, so let's move on further. I hope this is clear. This is again something very, very specific to your own case, and you will have to do the research. And I would probably recommend getting a market analysis on the area where you're doing business, just to see what area it is and if it works for you, and you can actually file that immigrant petition for that immigrant status, the petition for immigrant status. But again, I'm assuming that if you're watching this video, you already know that you met all the eligibility requirements, and we're doing this application. All right, so let's move on. We got our composition of your investment, administrative costs and fees, and your net worth. So we got a few things. We got date of investment and the amount of investment we're entering, right? All your investments here. Again, total, it has to be a certain amount. Okay, so it's either $800,000 or $1 million, depending on which area you are investing your money in. Composition of investment, total amount deposited or committed to deposit into U.S. business accounts for NCE. So that's a business account for your company. Total value of assets purchased for use in NCE, that's whatever it is, you know, the building, the cars, the water bottle manufacturing stuff, right? Whatever. I have no idea why I took it for an example, but basically all of the assets of the business and how much value was invested into that. Total value of all property transferred from abroad for use in NCE. So if you brought anything from, you know, if John Doe brought anything from Brazil, he can put it here. If not, just 0. Total of all debt financing, if you have any existing loans, you can put them here. Total stock or other equity purchases. If there are any stocks or equity purchased, you'll put that here, and other capital. Okay, moving further, we got our administrative costs. Enter the date and amount of all administrative costs and fees associated with your investment. If there were any fees, costs, whatever, you're putting them here. Honestly, I'm not too sure why it's even necessary here, but whatever, it's there, so make sure to put it. Your current net worth. Now, what is net worth? Now the net worth, I mean, if you're a business individual, if you're watching this video, I'm gonna assume that you already know what net worth is. It's basically a combination of all your investments, of all your assets, of everything, your wealth, right? That's a net worth. How much you're worth. Although it's not a good thing to judge people by the amount of stuff that they have. But this is exactly what they ask here, so you will have to calculate that. Okay, moving further, we got your sources for investment capital. Again, where do the money come in for the investment that you're making? Is it from income? Is it from loans? Is it from sale of real estate, gift, tangible assets? It can be multiple. It can be all of them. It doesn't matter. Whichever apply, you select those. It can be just one. It can be none. It can be just other, whatever, where the money come from, okay? And then you, in the space below, you describe the documentation included with this petition to demonstrate that the capital you have invested or are actively in the process of investing. Okay, so let's say if your money that you're investing into this NCE came from the sale of real estate and you selected that, then here you will put, I don't know, bill of sale for the house in Brazil, for example. And then you will include that bill of sale with your application. So in this space, you describe what kind of documentation is going to be sent with this application to prove that your money that you invested came from either income. If it's income, then you put, income, whatever, statements maybe. Like here, there's 1099, there's W-2, whichever. If it's loan, then you put the loan agreement with the bank. You get the point. Okay, moving further to the 15. If the funds used to make your investment were gifted or loaned to you, identify the donor. Okay, makes sense. Who gifted you the money. 16. If any persons transferred capital into the United States on your behalf, provide their identity. Okay, moving further, that's pretty straightforward. We got part 5 now. Employment creation information. Now, if you remember, somewhere in the beginning of this video, I mentioned that there has to be 10 jobs that were supposed to be created by you, okay, by the investor, in order for you to qualify as a petitioner for this immigrant status. So now they're asking this information here in this part 5. Are you employed by the NCE? Are you yourself employed? Yes, no. If you are employed by the NCE, what's your position? If you are employed by the NCE, what are your duties, activities, and responsibilities? Okay, makes sense. Now, number 2. Number of full-time, direct, and qualifying employees in the NCE at the time of your initial investment. Okay, so this initial investment one was made. Current number of full-time, direct, and qualifying employees. Now that has to be either 10 or more. Remember, we have to have at least 10 employees. Difference in number of full-time, direct, and qualifying employees. Okay. Estimated number of full-time direct and indirect positions that will be created during the relevant time period, and the total amount of your capital that has been or will be made available to the job creating business of the NCE. Okay, pretty straightforward. Let's move on to the part 6, visa processing and immigration proceedings. Okay, so here has to do obviously with your visa and with your application for the adjustment of status, which is basically immigrating to the United States or asking for permanent residence for a green card. So select the appropriate box to indicate how you will seek lawful permanent resident status. Do you want immigrant visa processing or you want application for adjustment of status? Okay, so if you are currently, if John Doe, let's say, is not in the United States of America, but he's still in Brazil, then he needs an immigrant visa processing because he will have to go to the embassy and he will have to get that immigrant visa from the embassy in his passport. Okay, if he is currently here in the United States of America, then he doesn't need an immigrant visa. He needs the application for the adjustment of status. Okay, so pretty straightforward. Moving further, address in country of last permanent residence abroad. If applicable, I'm gonna put it here. If your native alphabet is other than Roman letters, you're gonna put them here in the native alphabet. Moving further to the part 6, are you filing any other petitions or applications with this form I-526? If yes, then yes. If no, obviously then no. If you answered yes, make sure to select which one. Now the form I-485 is going to be the form for the permanent residence, application for permanent residence. Form I-131 is the petition for the alien relative. So if you have a spouse, if you have kids, and you want to bring them here and petition for them as well for their immigrant status, you're going to select that. And Form I-765, let me just show you how to find it so you know exactly, because I'm just listing everything for you, but I think it would be better if you actually know how to find it. So we're going to go again to forms, all forms, and it is Form I-765. Going to scroll down. They are in the alphabetic order. I-600, I-765, application for employment authorization. Yes, so if you do not have currently an employment authorization, then you will have to submit that. And that's most likely going to be the case if you are still outside of the United States of America. So you're probably going to need to submit this as well. Now, I've done a separate video on how to fill out the I-765. I've done a separate video on how to fill out I-131. And yes, I've done a separate video on how to fill out I-485. So if you need to fill out these forms, you can find them on this channel. Okay, moving further to the immigration proceedings now. Please indicate whether you are in exclusion, deportation, or removal. Or have you currently been in immigration proceedings with the Department of Homeland Security? If yes, then yes. If no, then no. Time of proceedings, exclusion, deportation, removal. Hopefully it's none of them. Location of proceedings, if applies. Are you currently or ever been subject to a final order of exclusion, deportation? Again, hopefully no, okay? Can't click on this. Some of the fields, as you can see, that are not grayed out, you cannot click on. So once you print out this application with black ink, just go back through everything and not applicable here and no here. Don't forget it. Just because you filled it out on the computer doesn't mean everything is ready. Okay, moving further to the employment in the United States. Have you ever worked in the United States without permission? Hopefully the answer is no. But if it is yes, you have plenty of explanation to do, because you can't work in the United States without permission. Hopefully you know that. And that's it. That's really it. We're moving on to the part 7, which is the very last part here in this application, which is the statement, contact info. Well, it's not the last part, but it's the last part to worry about. I'll just say that. Statement, contact information, declaration, and signature of the petitioner. I can read and understand English, or the interpreter. If there was an interpreter, then whatever. If there is petitioner's or authorized signatory statement regarding the preparer, if there was a preparer, you're going to put it here, but most likely it's going to be this. Petitioner's declaration. I reviewed everything. I understand everything. All the information that I provided is complete and true and correct and all of that sort of stuff. You'll have to sign it once you print this form out. Date of signature. You can put it on the computer if you're signing it. For example, today is January 28, 23. Just don't forget to print it. And oh, never mind. See, I already made a mistake. Too much rushing. 01 28 2023. Why? Because that's exactly the format that they ask us for. So gotta make sure you follow the application instructions. So moving further, interpreter. If you have an interpreter, you put it here. If not, just fill it all out. Not applicable, not applicable. Same thing, we go to the part 9, preparer. If you had somebody preparing this form, like for example, if I am preparing a form for John Doe, I'm gonna put my information here, all right? But not in this example, we don't do that. So we'll leave that. And then the part 10 is the additional information. If, for example, you need some more explaining to do, you put the page number, part number, item number, and then you do the additional information, additional application. So, not the application, additional details. So we're done with the application. You have it ready. You printed it out. You went through it with black ink. You filled out the things that you couldn't fill out on the computer. You signed it. It's good to go. You have all your documents prepared, as we've seen in the application, as you've read in the instructions. Now what? Where do we file it and how much does it cost? Okay, so 2 last things that I'll show you in this video. Very straightforward. Let's talk about the filing fee first. Filing fee right here in the step. And yes, it's pretty expensive. Pretty expensive petition. $3,675. I guess maybe USCIS assumes that since you are, already investing that much money, you don't mind paying that much for the petition. There you go. That's the filing fee. Where to file all of that stuff? Let's click on where to file, and it gives us direct filing addresses for form I-526. We're going to click on this link, and it will take us here to this page, and I will put all of this in the description of the video so that you can find it. So very straightforward. If you are filing form I-526 or form I-526E or 526 with form I-485, form I-485 based on pending or approved form I-26, you get the point. You're mailing it to, if you're mailing it with USPS, which is what I recommend mailing it with, you're mailing it to the PO box here in Dallas, Texas. If you are sending it with FedEx, UPS, and DHL, you're sending it here. So hopefully now you know exactly what you need to do, how to fill out the application, how to file it, where to file, how much to pay. Yes, you know exactly what to do because I just described it in this video. If you have any additional comments or questions though for this whole process, let me know in the comments below. I try to do every week to go through all of your comments and answer them in a video. So I call them answering your comments and immigration related questions. I think there's volume 10 now. There's 10 volumes. I'm just going and answering. So next one is going to be obviously volume 11, volume 12, and you get the point. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss those videos where I answer the questions. If this was useful, make sure to subscribe and click like, because that's really helpful for this channel. As always, thank you very much for your time. Hopefully this was helpful. God bless you all, and I'll see you in the next video.